Hi, welcome to another edition of Ask Jeff, where you can ask me, Jeff, hence the title of the show, about anything that you want. Sometimes they're theological questions, sometimes they're deep spiritual questions, sometimes they're a little bit more lighthearted, sometimes they're silly, and sometimes you're trying to trip us up. I got all that. This one comes from somebody who I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it is a student who has been learning some stuff in school, and it was a passing question. Hey, Pastor Jeff, I heard in class today that people are made up of mostly water. How come you don't slosh when you walk around and teach? It's a great question, isn't it? Some of you are hearing that question, you say, well, you do slosh around when you walk. I've heard you teach, and I would rather hear more sloshing. I got all that, and I know who you are, and I'm going to pray for you. But we did some research. As a matter of fact, the Ask Jeff Research Institute went to work on this particular question because it's a valid question, it's a good question, and it's a question that right at the top of the day I didn't have the answer to, but we have researched it and we have an answer for you. And because we're a full service place, here comes the answer. The answer is simply this. This isn't the answer yet. You have to realize that some people are more watery than others. Did you know that? People who are lean and muscular, they have more water in their bodies. People who might be a little bit plumper, a little puffier, if you will. There's a lot of ways of saying it, but those fatty cells don't hold water. They don't mix with water very well. And so someone who's leaner has a little bit more water. So the proportion of water might be a little bit different, because sometimes you've heard the phrase, oh, you're 97% water. That's just not true. And also, as people, just so you know, this is Science 101, our water content is always in flux, because if you think about it, people are constantly exuding fluids in a variety of ways, and I think you know what I'm talking about, but we sweat, fluids move through us on a regular basis. When we breathe, we're exuding fluid from our lungs. If we're good at anything, we're good at exuding. And so we're good exuders. And if you think you have no talent, you do. You go ahead and exude fluids all the time. And so that's important to understand too. But we found out when we started doing research that your water content actually varies by your age. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't. But outside the womb, you're probably only 70%, 60% water. That's kind of how it works. That number comes from the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology. Same study lets us know that actually 65% of human being is mostly oxygen. So H2O, obviously that's a part of it, but there's another 17.5% that's carbon, 10.2% of your body is hydrogen. There's some calcium, nitrogen, phosphorus making up most of the rest. Some people I know have lead in some places, but that's a whole different question, and not one we're going to talk about today. But at the end of the day, here's the answer to the question specifically, now that you have all of that vast wealth of information. And it's simply this, that while, yes, there is much of our body content that is water, fluid, if you will, it's not water as water would be if you turn on a spigot. According to the research done by Jeffrey Rosenstein at George Washington University, we're really not water, we're more like a gel. And he uses the idea of a cell to illustrate that. You know, while a cell on a micro level is loaded with stuff inside, it's really gel, and then it sits in another form of something that's gel, and then it moves through your body in more of a gel, and then you got your bloodstream that kind of gets moved into it. And so there's a whole lot going on, and while we're very fluid, see how I did that? But at the same time, we stick together because we're kind of like a gel cap, if you will. And so we're really not water per se, we're more gel, and that's why we don't slosh. Now it does beg the question, well, or gel, we still would have a little bit sloshy to us, right? A little bit of wiggle? And the answer is no. Because the way that our body and our tissue operates, that gel really does kind of stick together and it attaches one to another. And there's this other thing that's amazing that we carry in our bodies, and this is why we carry it. It's the skeleton. And so all of that gelatinous fluid, this stuff, it's Greek or Hebrew, I'm sure, connects to that skeleton, and as a result, we don't slosh. And that's your answer. How'd you like that? Pretty good, huh? If we didn't have our skeletons, by the way, we would be a lot like Jell-O, just so you know. And so thanks for the question. You can ask anything. And after that kind of answer, you're going to think before you ask another one, aren't you? Yes, I know you will. But thanks for joining us. Remember, the Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, even if we're kind of like Jell-O. Think about it.